So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Juliet Ejimofo, and I'll be moderating the KYC webinar series session today. But before we begin, I'd like to know how you've been doing. How have you been coping? What has your businesses been like? You know, these uncertain times have brought upon us a lot of things that we did not anticipate. So how have you been coping? Please let me know on the Zoom chat down below. We'll be happy to hear from you. We're happy to take your questions. So for the benefit of those who didn't attend last week's session, we started this webinar series to connect with industry professionals in the financial sector, the telco space, the PFA, and other interested organizations around the world. So what we did last week was that we took a deep dive into the evolution of Know Your Customer, which is popularly referred to as KYC. And we had a very interactive session filled with lots of interesting questions surrounding KYC and simplifying the customer experience. So what we're going to be doing today on the part 2 of the KYC webinar series is we'll just briefly look at what the evolution of KYC has been over the years, and then we'll proceed right away to our interactive session with our expert panelists. And then finally, we can now have the Q&A session from our amazing attendees, which is you that's listening to me right now. Please note that in order to avoid distractions and just to ensure that we have a smooth flow of our discussion today, the mics of all the attendees is on mute. So if you have any questions, if you have any comments, please feel free to let us know right down below on the Zoom chat. We'll take your questions one by one and would do justice to addressing whatever questions you have today. So before I start, I really want to say a very big thank you to all our attendees for joining us today. I hope that at the end of today's session, you're filled with more knowledge and insights that would help your KYC processes regardless of your industry. All right. Can everyone hear me clearly?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. So let's dive right in. I'd like to introduce our wonderful panelists on the webinar today. First off, we have Mr. Dion Oluwasegun, who is the Engineering Manager, Research and IT Operations at Seamfix. Mr. Dion will be discussing on how and why to bring your KYC processes online. He would also touch briefly on holistic data privacy, because we noticed that some of our attendees last week had a few questions on this topic. So we'll be addressing that today. It's nice to have you here, Dion. How are you doing today?
Hi, Juliet. Good morning. I'm doing quite well. Glad to be here.
All right, welcome. We also have Mr. Michael Ogba. Mr. Michael, I hope I pronounced your name very well.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Mr. Michael is he's the former head of agency banking at Access Bank. Mr. Michael will take a deep dive into what the future of KYC would look like in a post-COVID world. So let's remember that if we have any questions, if we have any comments, please let us know in the chat down below, right? And for everyone who's been here early, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate your time today, and we hope that at the end of today's session, you go back filled with more knowledge and insights. All right, so my first question will be to Mr. Dion. Dion, can you hear me?
Yes, clearly. I can hear you clearly, Juliet.
All right. So we all know the importance of digital right now, all right? I want to know, in your own opinion and from your wealth of experience, just highlight some of the benefits that you think organizations will enjoy if they migrated their KYC processes online.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Glad to be here once again. Okay, so just going to dive right into the question. Well, I think first of all, you just have to look at things from the realities on ground right now. I mean, an organization can't at this moment afford not to be digital, not to have online presence. You know, I mean, even before the pandemic, I think it was already becoming obvious. We had, I mean, statistics showed we had much more usage of online marketing, online e-commerce, and so on and so forth, basically. So there was already a growing trend. But with the pandemic, it just became a much needed medium of transacting and doing business. You know, it became mandatory, basically. There were, I mean, lots of organizations, NGOs, non-for-profit have virtually lost relevance because they didn't have or they were not prepared for any form of digital presence. You know, so I mean, right now it's more or less not even an option. If you want to stay relevant in today's world, you just have to have online presence and have a digital platform for transacting your business and conducting your business processes. But specific to KYC, I think I actually think there's some sort of how I put it, misinterpretation or should I say not a very clear understanding of what KYC really entails, basically. Because I think if we all had a very candid understanding of what KYC entails end to end, in itself, we will see more reasons why your KYC just has to be digital. It just has to be online, basically. So in today's world, or should I say what is popularly understood as KYC is basically the face of customer profiling, where we talk about capturing your customer's record and being able to verify that same record. You know, so we deal. Sorry, hold on. Let me just. Sorry about that. My daughter in the background. We're working from home.
That's fine.
So if you were to really grasp the concept of KYC, it goes beyond just acquiring identities and being able to verify identities, whether you're doing this manually or you're doing this digitally. There's a second and there's a third phase of KYC. The second phase is what we refer to as customer due diligence, basically. If I were to summarize this in a nutshell, I'll say this is the phase where you do some sort of credibility assessment, some form of risk assessment and risk scoring, you know, and this feeds directly into the first phase of identifying the customer. So I'll ask, the question is, so you want to transact business online, or you want to transact business even in the analog world? You know the person, you've identified the person, basically. You know, okay, possibly in the analog, in the physical world, you know, I'm maybe thinking of a banking hall scenario. Someone walks in and maybe he's my next door neighbor. He wants to open a bank account. So I know him. So let's not even talk, let's not even go into very complex KYC processes now. I know him. So I have identified him. I know him. Say, he wants to open an account. Mr. John Doe, you want to open an account? Okay, great. I have identified him. I know him. The question now is, do I want to transact business with him? And that's what the leg of due diligence really tries to take care of, the leg of credibility scoring. You know, it tries to help you make a decision. So now you have identified this individual online. You have verified it is this individual that wants to onboard your platform or wants to transact business with you. The question is, should you render service? Do I render service? That's a decision you have to make. And to make that decision, you need lots more information, basically. Things like the credit history of the person, the social history of the person, financial history of the person, and so on and so forth, basically. Lots of information going to this leg, basically, this leg of KYC. And this is a very vital leg because within this leg, how would I coin this properly? It informs the longevity of your business, basically. It informs how safe, how much risk you are making in your business. And then there's the third leg and the final leg of KYC, which is more or less almost the same thing as the first leg, but this leg is referred to as ongoing monitoring. Where, okay, so today someone came in and you identified his identity, you identified him, verified his identity, you made a decision. But this customer is going to come back tomorrow. He's going to come back next year. He's going to come back in 2 years' time, and he's going to want to do business with you again. When he comes back during those periods, should you do business with him? So that's where ongoing monitoring. Now, if you look at this all-encompassing definition of KYC, you realize that to afford the second leg of due diligence and to afford the third leg of ongoing monitoring, to afford these things manually is near impossible. You virtually cannot achieve this in an analogous world, basically, like just trying to operate this manually. You know, it's near impossible. So having a digital platform, having an online eKYC process makes this much more a breeze to accomplish, makes this much more a breeze to maintain and sustain and have it working effectively within your business process than you trying to maintain this manually. I mean, if you're to think of this practically, you can imagine back in the days, so I'll just take a use case of law enforcement, you know, where let's assume that there was a crime and there was a witness by chance, you know, to the crime. Someone just maybe someone was passing by and just witnessed the crime. What would typically happen back in the days before we had lots of digital innovations would be you will see the police force will probably bring in the witness and then bring forth this huge catalog with different mock shots of suspected criminals or suspects or people with misdemeanors and things, and ask the individual to identify someone, basically, you know, and say, okay, was this the person you saw? Was this the person you saw? You know, and that opens up a lot of room for errors. It opens room for inaccuracies. The process in itself is inefficient. And then to maintain that catalog means the law enforcement agency has to always ensure someone remembers to update that catalog, else the catalog grows stale. And these two things ties to the second leg of KYC, which is what I was talking about due diligence and ongoing monitoring, basically. Trying to achieve this in the manual world is virtually impossible. And you can apply this to a lot of other use cases in banking and fintechs, you know, in consumer goods, and so on and so forth, basically, you know. So that in itself is a huge reason, a very huge reason why, you know, having your KYC platform digitally expressed is more or less the only way to do it. It's more or less the forward thinking way to go about it. But obviously there are several other benefits to having your KYC platform online, or should I say digitally expressed or digitally maintained. You can think of things like having faster onboarding times, you know. So I think I once upon a time wanted to register on this investment portfolio for a bank. I had some spare cash and I Googled and saw that, okay, there was this application that this bank here in Nigeria has, and you could just go to the application, sign up, put in your credentials, see a listing of different investment opportunities, choose one, put in some money there, boom, and you're done. Just come back and monitor your investments. And I say, oh, wow, brilliant. So I don't need an investment broker or something. That makes sense. Okay, the world is getting better. So I go to my Play Store, I download this application, I try to onboard myself. Eventually it asks me to upload my utility bills and some other stuff, basically, which I do. And then it tells me, okay, so I have to pause now and you'll get back to me, because I'm guessing they have to verify some details, verify my address, verify my credentials, verify my BVN, and so on and so forth, you know. And I had to virtually submit all of that and pause for maybe 2 days, 3 days, or a week for them to verify and get back to me before I could take the money I had at that point in time and put it in as an investment. I mean, who says in a week's time when they come back to me, I still have the money I wanted to invest? Who says the issues of life haven't come up and I had to just redirect that money I wanted to invest into something else, basically, you know? So if you take that same picture and just twist it around and imagine you had an eKYC, or I mean, the verification was happening digitally, basically, and on the spot. Because I mean, part of the parameters for digital KYC is that you must have near real-time response, basically. You know, I mean, if anyone here is dealing with a vendor who is providing you KYC solution and is not giving you near real-time response, then maybe you're talking to Seamfix. But anyway, if the parameters of that same case scenario were switched around and I had near real-time response and I put up my credentials, it means immediately I'm onboarded. which is good for me, which is good for the company. So you have, you basically have a faster onboarding time. You are able to get more customers on your platform if you have a digital KYC platform. It's also much more cost effective, if you were to think about it. I mean, I can think of back in the days when NASA used to manage human calculators. I mean, they actually had human beings who had to do complex mathematical computations to take a rocket from the Earth to space. And those people had to be groomed. I mean, from when they were born, you had to catch them young, you had to groom them, put them to college, get them to that whole process of grooming them into becoming that human calculator. Consider that cost. Today, we have digital calculators that you can just put in your pocket or have on your phones, basically. So technology generally always ensures that eventually the cost for achieving the same service eventually becomes cheaper. And this is like a trend we have seen in several other fields in IT, basically. Technology generally becomes cheaper over time, basically. So it's obviously much more cost effective to run a digital KYC than you would think of doing the same thing with an analog KYC process, basically. Obviously, it improves customer satisfaction. Even with the example I gave, your customers are better satisfied. If you have a more efficient service, a more efficient platform that you provide to them, you get real-time business value. And I mean, even for the organizations who are compelled to have KYC embedded in your business process, maybe due to regulations or government policies and all whatnot, having a digital KYC platform ensures you get compliance much faster than you can if you're trying to achieve the same thing in a manual world. And not only get onboarded faster or get compliant faster, but also helps ensure that you sustain compliance on the long run. We've heard of a lot of companies, even in the country, who once upon a time were compliant, and then down the line, and now start getting lots of things, like they were getting penalties for different things here and there because they, at some point, lost compliance or fell short of the compliance expectations. Basically, having a proper orchestrated digital KYC platform ensures you quickly get compliant and that you are able to sustain that compliance over time. So, I mean, I could literally just go on thinking of things, and ideas just keep popping in my head as I'm speaking. There are numerous benefits to organizations. There are numerous reasons why you really should consider having your KYC process being digitally administered. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Dion. That was such a fantastic answer. So, Mr. Michael, it's nice to meet you. It's nice to have you here today. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to take a practical case of the banking sector, right? But before we do that, I would like to, for the benefit of those who are just joining us now, I'd like to give you a brief introduction of Seamfix. So Seamfix is a leading technology company, and we're focused on helping organizations to ensure service delivery, process automation, and satisfaction across all their customer touchpoints, right? What we basically do is that we transform the way that work is done in organizations using technology. And we also provide mission-critical software solutions for the telecommunications, private and public sector throughout Africa and emerging markets. We're actually very friendly at Seamfix. So if you want to know more about our services, our solutions, please reach out to us through our social media channels or visit our website. Trust me, we're very friendly. We don't bite. So over to Mr. Michael. Mr. Michael, you're a banking professional and you have very proficient experience in agency banking. So from your experience, how is COVID-19 really impacting the KYC in the banking sector?
Okay, thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure. And good afternoon, everybody, all our participants from across the world. It's a huge privilege to be here talking to you on this very important topic. Let me start by asking, why do organizations carry out KYC? Like the earlier expert has explained, KYC simply means know your customer. It's even more important in the banking industry because banks deal with financing. So if you have the wrong person in your system, that's a potential danger. So for you to do an adequate KYC, there are certain things you really have to get right. One of them is to ensure that whoever you are onboarding in your system, whoever the person says he is, he actually is. So there are certain things you need to do, like getting the unique things about that person. I'll give you 2 examples. You see, there are features God has endowed each and every one of us with. Our fingerprints are unique. Our pupil, the eye pupil, is different. Our vocal cord is different. I can go on and on. So for banks, they actually go as far as knowing what is unique about this person that I'm taking into my system. And before now, we used to ask account officers when a customer comes and says, I want to open an account with you, we say, fine, these are the forms you need to fill. When the person has finished filling those forms, you go through them. He says he's living at number 24, Babbage Towers or somewhere. You send somebody to go actually verify. You ask him to bring something that actually shows that he stays there. Beyond that, you also check for certain things that are unique about him, which you can verify. There are documents that he will have to provide that will give you comfort as an institution. One of them is voter's card because it has biometrics behind it, driver's license, it has the biometrics behind it, international passport. Whatever the person provides, you need to verify to know that the person is actually the person. But the world has changed. The lockdown has made it difficult for us to follow the normal processes we are using before. So you can't go out. So somebody still wants to open an account, and you can open an account electronically. For the new generation banks, you can dial *90 whatever and get an account opened immediately. But for you to now begin to transact to certain extent, that your information needs to be verified. And that is why I like Seamfix. They have done it such that you can still achieve the same thing without leaving the comfort of your homes or your office. So they have products that can literally help do the KYC virtually. One of them is video. For instance, if I say my name is Michael Oba, there are no 2 Michael Obas that can be talking to you through a unique identified medium. This Zoom platform we are seeing now has a unique identifier. There is an address. Both my phone and the connection can prove to you that I'm the one talking. So that can give you some level of comfort that the person talking is the person talking. So you need to do that. So in this post-COVID-19 world, you still have to do KYC. Howbeit, you are going to do it differently. I'll give you use cases. Talking about the banking industry, if I come in and claim that I'm Michael Oba, while in real sense I'm not, I'm only waiting for that time I'll commit a fraud and I'll disappear. If the bank doesn't know their customer in the true sense of it, not only will the bank suffer loss, they will be sued, and even the regulatory authority will find them and say, you claim that you know this person. How come you didn't know the person? Because if you really do, come and produce that person. That's why it's critical for banks to do KYC in a way and manner is being designated. I'll give you another use case. This one, telecommunication. I know you asked me about banking, but I'll just briefly mention the telecoms one. Remember 2 years back, there was a big telecommunication company, I won't call names so that I won't be sued, that the federal government went after them. Why? Because they said that they weren't doing biometrics registration, which essentially is actually KYC. So somebody goes and kidnaps somebody. Okay, Ivan's case is still in court, so I'm at liberty to mention. And he has come to confess that they used phones to trace whoever they want to go after and all. So imagine if that telecom doesn't do an adequate KYC,
hello, Michael, we can
is used to kidnap somebody or to do money laundering, the institution is in trouble, because if you say you know this customer, provide the customer. How come the customer is a fraudulent person and you didn't get to know? These are the essential reasons why you must carry out adequate KYC. And for a bank, I will narrow it down to agency banking, because you did ask me about agency banking. You see, agents are third parties that banks.
Hello, Mr. Michael. I don't think we can hear you anymore.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I can hear you, sir.
I was explaining for agency banking. Agents are essentially third-party institutions that banks use to carry out to sell their products and services as it were. So they have some power. If you onboard an agent that is a fraudster, you are opening your system to a lot of problems. If that agent collects money from other people and fail to credit that money into the account, what happens? You'll be sued, because the agent is your customer and you have claimed that you know that agent. So you are in trouble, have an issue. Secondly, that agent can aid and abet money laundering. So how do you prove to the authorities, whether it's EFCC, whether it's the Nigerian Police Force, whether it's the military, whether it is Central Bank of Nigeria, that you onboarded an agent who you didn't know very well, and that agent is now carrying out these activities, kidnapping, money laundering, whatever, child trafficking, what have you. So that is the reason you have to do what you have to do. So regarding the post-COVID world and how you can do KYC, I'm sure we'll still get to it, but there are some ways and means you can still carry out these things without necessarily doing face-to-face. I'll get back to them when the time comes. I guess I'll leave it at this for now. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Michael. Let's go back to eKYC. Dion, so there are organizations around the world are really making like the change to eKYC as a response to COVID-19 and this whole behavior shift. So as a tech lead in a top KYC company, can you elaborate on what is in place to help organizations, you know, seamlessly migrate?
All right. Okay. So so now we are discussing how to help organizations migrate their KYC process to a digital platform where they have it online, or should I just say digital, basically. So first and foremost, I think the technology is now much readily available than it was before. There's been an explosion of super innovations, if I should say so, with respect to the field of KYC, you know, particularly digital KYC, with respect to biometric identification in particular, you know, where there are now so many options that can be exploited, or should I say that can be used to achieve very, very accurate KYC, you know. And to support this explosion in innovations and technology, basically, you have so much more vendors, or should I say technology partners available, you know, at your disposal, you know. For a company like Seamfix, for example, and we've been doing KYC for at least, I can think, over 10 years, thereabout. I mean, from back in days of telcos like Starcoms, you know, when I was just leaving school back then, you know, Seamfix was already engaging in KYC. Basically, and over the years, we have Seamfix has transcended with the times. Basically, our suite of KYC products has evolved basically drastically, you know, if I should say so, over time. And I believe the same has happened at a large expanse as well, not just within Seamfix, basically, you know. So first of all, I think there are now so much more vendors, so much more IT partners that organizations can partner with to have this migration done. Basically, there are also now so much more options for how you want your EKYC process to be managed, it can actually be as flexible as you want it to be. It can be as security tight as you want it to be, you know. And there are also so many upcoming innovations also coming on within that field, you know, with respect to things that deal with accuracy, with respect to things that deal with the security of data being managed, with respect to even concerns around data privacy, with respect to concerns around security, data security, and so on and so forth, basically. You know, so I think in a nutshell, I would say I particularly wouldn't recommend to any organization thinking of an eKYC to start building their own IT infrastructure, IT department in-house. Basically, for me, that's like a very, very long haul. I think it actually takes you away from the core business which you are trying to achieve, basically. You know, so find the right vendor, find the right IT partner who has a track record of deploying KYC products, basically. You know, and explain your process to them. You know, get them to understand what your business goals are. Get them to understand what you are trying to achieve. Basically, is it for regulatory concerns? Is it for policy concerns? Is it, you know, just because you want to improve your business efficiency and so on and so forth? Basically, you know, and basically come on board a KYC platform. Let your IT partners give you the best advice possible. Basically, I think that's. It's actually much easier nowadays, you know, than it was some years ago. Basically, the technologies are much more readily available right now. And there's a lot of local intellect that could help you get these things done at next very cheap rates, basically. You know, I think that's, yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Dion. So for the benefit of those who are just joining us now, thank you very much for your time today. Please, if you have any questions or you have comments, you have any questions directed to any of our panelists, please let us know down in the Zoom chat below. All right. So in line with what you just said, Dion, Mr. Michael, we're going to see like very new technology innovations in EKYC. Like you mentioned video KYC earlier on, which can allow banks to like verify customers' documents and, you know, record their digital signatures via video call. So how would you think that this would affect the customer onboarding in the banking industry, taking note of the compliance processes?
Thank you very much for that question. It's a very critical thing you have mentioned. Think about it. During the lockdown, banks weren't open. So customers couldn't, even for those that have challenges, they couldn't go to the banks to complain or to get their problem sorted out. They couldn't also go to the banks to do their KYC. So what did they resort to doing? It became both a solution and a problem for the banks. The banks that did very well were the banks that have effective customer service centers and have 24 hours customer issue resolution. So once the customers complained to them, they were able to deal with the challenges. That is also good customer service because the Consumer Protection Agency, whether it is the Consumer Protection Agency itself or the one hosted in Central Bank of Nigeria, banks were compelled to ensure that their customers do not suffer, whether there is COVID, whether there is lockdown, whether there is social distancing, whatever, they have to be attended to. So it becomes a two-edged sword. For the banks that get it right, they kept getting more customers because if I call and my issue is resolved, I'm bound to come and transact the next day. If I want to do my KYC and you're able to do it electronically for me, I'll be able to come back to you and I will even bring more customers to you. But for the banks that messed it up, it became a problem because these customers, when they get frustrated, they will start bouncing the bank, they will go to social media and start writing things that will just spoil the reputational name of the institution. Now, this is where it gets interesting. The KYC is already done, and I like what Seamfix is doing. So if a customer comes to me today and say, I want to open an account, I say, fine, I need to carry out KYC. But before I do that, what national identity do you have? He said, well, I don't have too many, but I have my voter's card. Fantastic. So Seamfix has made it possible such that a bank can get that number, that is voter's card number, and able to check it back end. If you're able to do that, the problem is sorted out. Why? Because the voter's cards has biometrics. If you're a voter in Nigeria, remember when you went to get it, they did that for 442. So it's already there. Ability to get that back end shows me that Mrs. Lagbaja is actually Mrs. Lagbaja. So if you don't have your voter's card, all well and good. You have international passport. The answer is yes. Give me your international passport number. Once I have that international passport number, I'll be able to check back end to see that, because also when you went to do your international passport, remember you did 442. So the information, the biometrics is there in the international passport. So once I'm able to get it, I'm fine. I don't need further KYC for that. So you went to do your driver's license. It is also effective. It is also useful. So I can use it, check back and ensure that whoever says it is the person. I'm fine. I can put it on. And finally, and most importantly, is the BVN. You see, CBN has insisted that for anybody to transact within a certain threshold in banks, you must have your BVN number. Otherwise, you are restricted to give something like cumulative 300,000 and below. You can't go beyond that. So if somebody wants to come and transact, if you don't have your BVN and all these other identification I've mentioned, fine, we can open an account for you, but you can't transact beyond certain level. You can't also be given credit, for instance. You can do your savings, you can do very minimal things, but when you now want to go towards that savings, towards being international funds transfer and what have you, or even to have an ATM card, you must do your KYC. And this KYC, Nigeria has a laundry list of, is it national identification number, is it driver's license, is it international passport, is it voter's card? We have all of them. So even for telcos, you know, before you can register a SIM, you must do 442. So all these things, Seamfix has made it possible that to any institution that comes to you, you'll be able to set them up. They can do this verification, identification verification back end, and that suffices. If a bank is able to get that, that's the KYC. It's been done in this post-COVID normal, the new normal. These things have to be done virtually. Nobody will be going out there to be doing it. In fact, that is the minimum standard going forward. So for any institution that is listening, you better talk to Seamfix.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Michael. I have another question for you.
Okay.
So, we have seen that customer onboarding during this whole COVID-19 lockdown has highlighted the advantage of remote digital solutions over like the normal paper-based processes. So how else do you think banks and other financial institutions would benefit from like this whole digital onboarding, especially as it will improve the customer experience and also in terms of being compliant at the same time?
Okay, beautiful question. Number one, it has reduced costs for them. Before now, for you to do verification, address verification, you have to send somebody to be going from one location to the other. Even if the person uses bicycle, if there is cost to it. If he uses motorcycle, there is cost to it. If he uses car, there is cost to it. Even going from one location to the other, there is cost to it. So if you can still achieve that without leaving the comfort of your office or your home, happy are you. So number one, it has reduced cost for this institution. The phone we are using has a unique identification. So if somebody can get that unique identification and trace it that it is you, there's no need to go everywhere. I'll give you a second example. There is something called geospatial, that's geotarget, GPS. So if I want to know whether Michael is actually in Banana Island right now, I will tell Michael to turn on his GPS. I will be able to see the geolocation of where he's coming from. So if you can tell you, and we tried it in my agency banking experience, we'll tell the agent, put on your GPS coordinates. I should be able to pull that information from where I am. If he tells me that he's in Sokoto, meanwhile the GPS is saying that he's in Abuja, in Mararaba Market, I'll know that this one is a fraudster. So you can actually use that information digitally. You can actually know whether somebody is trying to be funny or not. For the banks, it reduces cost. It makes it effective because technology cannot be wrong. It's garbage in, garbage out, except you put the wrong thing. Otherwise, with some level of expertise, technology works all the time. So in terms of compliance, if CBN comes to you and says, how did you verify that this guy is actually the person he says he was? You bring out the special GPS location, you show them all this identification we have mentioned and how you were able to verify digitally. And you can also show them how you were able to carry out that same KYC remotely, virtually. And when you're able to prove that, no law, you have done it to the best of your ability. There is nobody that can say you could have done it better. But you have to do it and you have to live. There is something called digital footprint. Digital footprint means that if you are using a computer, this is my computer now, it has a unique number to it. If I'm going to commit a fraud, and FBI in US wants to track this laptop, they will use the digital footprint because it has a unique, my friend in IT will tell you the name, I've forgotten what they call it, but there is a unique number attached to this computer. It's a digital footprint. For the phones, all of them, the new Android phones, all of them have digital footprint. So with this, you can actually do virtual identification of both the person and the gadget the person is using. So you can carry out verification and at a cheaper rate, and it will be compliant, and customers will be happy. If I'm not going to disturb a customer, I will tell him, okay, give me this information, I'll be able to onboard you. How do you think he will feel? He will be happy because you're not taking him all through, come today, come tomorrow. Have you seen banks lately, the bank branches? They are now putting canopies in front of banks. You stay under the sun. One thing they don't understand is that those canopies, once there is sun, it is hotter than even staying outside without it. So why do you want to punish people that way just because they want to do KYC? Why can't you do it virtually? I think we are all beneficiaries, in quote, of this post-COVID era. The new normal is that things will now be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Michael. So let's look at our chat. I think we have some questions from our attendees. So from D. Ogunrombi, for customers in rural areas, how does digital KYC work when most of these customers are illiterate or do not have access to digital facilities? Also, with the risk of IP cloning or other cyber risks, how does digital KYC help with that? Mr. Michael, do you want to take that?
I'll take the first part. I'll leave Dion to take the second part. The rural areas, how would you how do you do KYC in rural areas? Let me ask you a question. How many Nigerians have voters cards? How were those voters cards collected? They went there and they did their 442. Let me give you an example. When, as the head of agency banking in Access Bank, I traveled to Niger State. There are 25 local governments in Niger State. I visited 15 of them because I was doing cash disbursement. A customer of the bank wanted to give 10,000 naira to 1,000 women in each local government. And we had to go do it manually. So I literally went to 50 local governments in Niger State. It was shocking to me that 99% of them had voters card. So if they have voters card, they have digital footprint. All you need to do is to connect to the database of the Nigerian Electoral Commission. If you can get that, that is the answer to your problem. Even as remote as all the local governments in Niger State, people had voters card, meaning that they had digital footprint. About 60% of them also had phone, even if it is Banlasa phone, what do they call those ones? But they had phones. So that's another digital footprint, because you must register them before you can issue a SIM card. So don't think about rural as if they are in, where was Adam and Eve, Garden of Eden, before technology came. No, they are not that far away from technology. All you need to do is to work smart. Talk to Seamfix. They will fix you up. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Michael. So, Dion, I think you should take the next question, which is, with the risk of IP cloning and other cyber risk, how does digital KYC help with that?
All right. So it's actually a very valid question, and so to say, it's funny. I think this frame of questions is part of the reason why that digital ecosystem hasn't reached, should I say, where it really should be in Africa, or should I say Nigeria right now, because it's very intangible. It's a very intangible world. It's a very abstract world. People are used to what they can see, what they can hold, what they can touch. You know, all the risk that you can think of when it comes to cyber, when it comes to digital or electronic mediums, basically, you have even more in the physical realm. Let's start from there. Basically, you have more risk in the physical realm than you can comprehend in digital, way more, basically. But the difference is, in the physical realm, you saw the thief that came to steal the thief. You know, you saw the thief, basically, that came to steal the identity or came to steal your stuff, basically. And as a manager, it's easy to report. We saw the guy. He was 6 foot tall. He was dark in complexion. He had a mask on. You know, it makes you look more like you know what you are doing. Flip the coin and your data center was hacked, for example. And the question is, how do you report that to your manager who is not IT savvy, basically? You just say, we were hacked. By who? You can't say. What's the IP? You can't say. No further information. All you know at that point in time is you were hacked, basically. So this problem frame is particularly why we still have a lot of concerns, particularly in Africa and Nigeria, of what if they clone our IP? What about the cyber threats? What of phishing? What of man-in-the-middle attacks, and so on and so forth, basically. And the truth is, to all these things, they are actually countermeasures, preventive measures, things that are in place, readily available in place. You know, it really goes around safety. You know, having a security first mindset when it comes to building, when it comes to usage of IT products, basically. So it's not even always just necessarily about the application or the product we're talking about, whether it's KYC or a banking application or whatever the case might be. It's also about how you use the product, basically. So there just has to be this security first mindset. And even if you are hacked, there are measures to control damage. There are more measures in place to control damage for a digital malicious act than actually for a physical malicious act, if you come to think of it. If you do the real analysis, there are actually more countermeasures and more measures to mitigate damage, basically. You know, once you follow the right procedures and you follow the right protocols, basically. So for me, I would think, first of all, for this sort of concerns, first of all, ensure you are working with an IT partner who understands the implication of security. More so probably one who is certified, or who has a department that has certified security experts, basically. You know, people who have a track record of embedding security in the applications. That's one. And also, even you as the consumer, you have to be security conscious, basically. Things as simple as not clicking links in emails. Things that simple, some people still find very hard to grasp. Things as simple as not clicking links that were sent to you from Facebook, sent to you from Twitter, whatever the case might be, you know. You might think I'm paranoid, but I simply don't click links. If you want to send me something, send me information. Don't send me a link. I won't click it, whether it's from you, whether it's from my boss, I don't care. I don't click links. It's actually that simple, because you have to be security conscious. It's those small things that open the door for malicious acts. Those small things that open the door for vulnerabilities and things like that, basically, you know. So first of all, find a vendor who has the right accreditation, who has the right security certification, has the right people who can consult with you and guide you on usage, not just even on implementation, but also on usage. And you yourself as the consumer, you have to be security conscious. Basically, know how to manage your information, basically. And in the advent something still goes wrong, there are lots of countermeasures, lots and lots of countermeasures, because the people who create this system have spent years thinking of how to ensure it's secure. Basically, they have spent a lot of investment trying to ensure that these systems are secure. And even in the event of a break-in, this is how we mitigate it. There are well-defined steps and protocols to follow for those kind of situations, basically. So for me, the discussion of threats really is one I think is a bit overflowed. You know, for me, it's a bit overflowed. That's just the way I put it.
All right, thank you very much, Dion, for that brilliant answer. So we have to have like a safety-first mindset.
It has a unique, my friend in IT will tell you the name, I forgot what they call it, but there is a unique number attached to this computer. It's a digital footprint. For the phones, all of them, the new Android phones, all of them have digital footprint. So with this, you can actually do virtual identification of both the person and the gadget the person is using. So you can carry out verification and at a cheaper rate, and it will be compliant, and customers will be happy. If I'm not going to disturb a customer, I will tell him, okay, give me this information, I'll be able to onboard you. How do you think he will feel? He will be happy because you're not taking him all through, come today, come tomorrow. Have you seen banks lately, the bank branches? They are now putting canopies in front of banks. You stay under the sun. One thing they don't understand is that those canopies, once there is sun, it is hotter than even staying outside without it. So why do you want to punish people that way just because they want to do KYC? Why can't you do it virtually? I think we are all beneficiaries, in quote, of this post-COVID era. The new normal is that things will now be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Michael. So let's look at our chat. I think we have some questions from our attendees. So from D. Ogunrombi, for customers in rural areas, how does digital KYC work when most of these customers are illiterate or do not have access to digital facilities? Also, with the risk of IP cloning or other cyber risks, how does digital KYC help with that? Mr. Michael, do you want to take that?
I'll take the first part. I'll leave Dion to take the second part. The rural areas, how do you do KYC in rural areas? Let me ask you a question. How many Nigerians have voters card? How were those voters cards collected? They went there and they did their 442. Let me give you an example. When, as the head of agency banking in Access Bank, I traveled to Niger State. There are 25 local governments in Niger State. I visited 15 of them because I was doing cash disbursement. A customer of the bank wanted to give 10,000 naira to 1,000 women in each local government. And we had to go do it manually. So I literally went to 15 local governments in Niger State. It was shocking to me that 99% of them had voters card. So if they had voters card, they have digital footprint. All you need to do is to connect to the database of the Nigerian Electoral Commission. If you can get that, that is the answer to your problem. Even as remote as all the local governments in Niger State, people had voters card, meaning that they had digital footprint. About 60% of them also had phone, even if it is Bangladesh phone, what do they call those ones? But they have phones. So that's another digital footprint because you must register them before you can issue a SIM card. So don't think about rural as if they are in, where was Adam and Eve, Garden of Eden, before technology came. No, they are not that far away from technology. All you need to do is to work smart. Talk to Seamfix. They will fix you up. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Michael. So, Dion, I think you should take the next question, which is, with the risk of IP cloning and other cyber risk, how does digital KYC help with that?
All right. So it's actually a very valid question, and so to say, it's funny. I think this frame of questions is part of the reason why that digital ecosystem hasn't reached, should I say, where it really should be in Africa, or should I say Nigeria right now, because it's very intangible. It's a very intangible world. It's a very abstract world. People are used to what they can see, what they can hold, what they can touch. You know, all the risk that you can think of when it comes to cyber, when it comes to digital or electronic mediums, basically, you have even more in the fiscal realm. Let's start from there. Basically, you have more risk in the fiscal realm than you can comprehend in digital, way more, basically. But the difference is in the fiscal realm, you saw the thief that came to steal the thief. You know, you saw the thief, basically, that came to steal the identity or came to steal your stuff, basically. And as a manager, it's easy to report. We saw the guy. He was 6 foot tall. He was dark in complexion. He had a mask on. You know, it makes you look more like you know what you are doing. Flip the coin and your data center was hacked, for example. And the question is, how do you report that to your manager who is not IT savvy, basically? You just say, we were hacked. By who? You can't say. What's the IP? You can't say. No further information. All you know at that point in time is you were hacked, basically. So this problem frame is particularly why we still have a lot of concerns, particularly in Africa and Nigeria, of what if they clone our IP? What about the cyber threats? What of phishing? What of man-in-the-middle attacks, and so on and so forth, basically. And the truth is, to all these things, they are actually countermeasures, preventive measures, things that are in place, readily available in place. You know, it really goes around safety. You know, having a security first mindset when it comes to building, when it comes to usage of IT products, basically. So it's not even always just necessarily about the application or the product we're talking about, whether it's KYC or a banking application or whatever the case might be. It's also about how you use the product, basically. So there just has to be this security first mindset. And even if you are hacked, there are measures to control damage. There are more measures in place to control damage for a digital malicious act than actually for a physical malicious act, if you come to think of it. If you do the real analysis, there are actually more countermeasures and more measures to mitigate damage, basically. You know, once you follow the right procedures and you follow the right protocols, basically. So for me, I would think, first of all, for this sort of concerns, first of all, ensure you are working with an IT partner who understands the implication of security. More so probably one who is certified, or who has a department that has certified security experts, basically. You know, people who have a track record of embedding security in the applications. That's one. And also, even you as the consumer, you have to be security conscious, basically. Things as simple as not clicking links in emails. Things that simple, some people still find very hard to grasp. Things as simple as not clicking links that were sent to you from Facebook, sent to you from Twitter, whatever the case might be, you know. You might think I'm paranoid, but I simply don't click links. If you want to send me something, send me information. Don't send me a link. I won't click it, whether it's from you, whether it's from my boss, I don't care. I don't click links. It's actually that simple, because you have to be security conscious. It's those small things that open the door for malicious acts. Those small things that open the door for vulnerabilities and things like that, basically, you know. So first of all, find a vendor who has the right accreditation, who has the right security certification, has the right people who can consult with you and guide you on usage, not just even on implementation, but also on usage. And you yourself as a consumer, you have to be security conscious. Basically, know how to manage your information, basically. And in the advent something still goes wrong, there are lots of countermeasures, lots and lots of countermeasures, because the people who create this system have spent years thinking of how to ensure it's secure, basically. They have spent a lot of investment trying to ensure that these systems are secure. And even in the advent of a break-in, this is how we mitigate it. There are well-defined steps and protocols to follow for those kind of situations, basically. So for me, the discussion of threats really is is one I think is a bit overflowed. You know, for me, it's a bit overflowed. That's just the way I put it.
All right, thank you very much, Dion, for that brilliant answer. So we have to have like a safety first mindset. But please, if we send you link to our webinar, click it. I think Mr. Michael should take that question. Mr. Michael.
Yes, please.
Did you hear that?
No, I didn't. Go ahead.
Okay, I said there's another question, right? Someone is asking that how are solutions applicable to verification of relatives, their guarantors, their referees, and other concerns? So I think you should take that question.
Okay, so it's the same process, but instead of the primary person being the one you are doing the KYC on, you are doing it for the other parties. I think that's just the difference. There is no guarantor that doesn't have the digital footprint. There are so many categories of identification you can look for. One of them is whether it is international passport, driver's license, national ID card, voter's card, and what have you. So I think we can do the same thing for so many other people. Did you get that?
Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So, Dion, I think I have another question for you from the chat. So what is the strength of digital KYC as a defense for a banking institution in the event of a liability or fraud? That's in line with what we've been discussing. Did you get that, Dion?
Can you repeat the question, please?
I said, what is the strength of digital KYC as a defense for a banking institution in the event of a liability or fraud?
The strength of digital KYC as a defense for banking institution.
For a banking institution.
I'm trying to wrap my head around the question so I get the perspective. The questionnaire was asking a question for. I'm trying to. Okay, let me just say this. I'm not sure I'm going to answer the question appropriately because I can't really wrap my head around the intent of the question. Basically, it's a bit. Maybe it's the framing of the question that is not well done. But let me just.
Julius, I repeat the question again.
All right. So the question is, what is the strength of digital KYC as a defense for a banking institution in the event of a liability or fraud?
Oh, okay.
Shego, can I attempt?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so like I said, the same way a signature can be forged. When a signature is forged, when you go to court, the original signature is brought, the forged one is brought, and the court will use best interpretation to judge the case. It's the same way with digital footprint. If somebody commits a crime, what will save the bank will be, did you do due diligence? Did you go through the best practices? If you can prove that you did that, no court in the whole world will sue you for something that you are incapable of doing. For instance, if you say you did digital KYC, they want to know how did you carry it out. If you can prove that you used an international passport that was verified by the Nigerian Customs Service, and you have an evidence of that, I think it would be unjust for the court to say you did the wrong thing. Or if they say you used driver's license and you can prove that the driver's license was the one that was issued by the Federal Road Safety Commission or whoever the authority for it is. So there is an extent to which you can do to the best. You can't stop crime from happening, and there is no court that will kill you for not trying. What they will ask is, did you do due diligence, and were you able to do through the best practices? What are your policies? Did you follow them? It's only when you run short of the procedures and processes and best practice and due diligence that somebody can hold you responsible for that. That's my take on that.
All right, that's fine. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's more or less to buttress the same response Mr. Michael gave, basically. So there are obviously guidelines for any form of KYC process, whether it's online, whether it's manual process, basically. You know, there are guidelines and protocols that gather how data is collected, what data is collected, how it is kept, and so on and so forth, basically. In advent of fraud or something malicious happens, basically, provided the institution, that is the data processor, basically, can show that due diligence was followed, basically. We did what we were supposed to do, basically. You know, we followed the guidelines. We adhered to the protocols. You know, we dotted our I's and stroked our T's and so on and so forth, basically. You are, how will I put it? There are frameworks in place that limit the amount of liability to which you are exposed to as an organization, provided you have followed these due processes, basically. So it's virtually just to buttress the same points that Mr. Michael has already explained. Yeah.
That's fine. Thank you very much. So let's take a look at holistic data privacy. A lot of our attendees last week had some questions around this. So Dion, as a tech lead in one of the companies in Nigeria that not only deals with data, but takes data privacy seriously, can you elaborate on some of the processes that guide data privacy?
All right. So yeah, this is a very sensitive and valid topic at the same time. Basically, sometime last year, Seamfix, I was lucky enough to be part of a delegation from Seamfix that attended the ID for Africa conference in South Africa, where a major topic was data privacy, basically concerns around how data is handled, how data is used, and so on and so forth. Basically, I mean, it was a 5-day conference, and there was virtually a day where the only thing we talked about for the whole all sessions for that day was around data privacy. I mean, this wasn't a local conference. This was an international conference. The who and who of KYC, the who and who of ID and biometric management were all at this conference, basically. You know, so it buttresses the importance of the question or the importance of the concern around data privacy. Everyone is thinking about data privacy. Some years back, the GDPR, let's say, law came about, basically, that controlled, or should I say, that stipulated a lot of measures that were to be put in place by data processors on how data is handled, how data is managed, and so on and so forth. Not too long after that, the NDPR, which is our own local content, came on also, basically. And we have had several evolutions from then. You know, there are now a couple of ISO processes that also now guide data usage, data privacy, and data handling, basically. You know, so it's a growing concern. It's something that is still growing, still be developed. I won't say the body of knowledge or the body of control around this is fully matured yet. I think it's still far from maturity. There are still a lot of innovations, still a lot of things coming ahead down the line that will further buttress the concepts of data control and data privacy, particularly from the data subject, the subject of the data, the owner of the data, particularly from that perspective. You know, if I was to limit, or should I say, if I was to just try to jump directly on the question, basically, I can think of a few. I can think of a few laws right now with respect to data privacy, I think that you can abstract directly from the our NDPR. You know, so for example, you have things like saying there has to be consent. So the data subject, which is the owner of the data, has to give consent before you can get his data. You have to explain to him the exact data you need for a transaction. So if someone comes on your platform, on your digital platform, and you need to get data from him, you can't get more data than you should. So I know once upon a time, almost all e-commerce sites would ask you for 1,001 things, basically because they wanted to be able to throw ads at you We're going to be able to track you better online. We're going to be able to just put up things just to, and draw you back to their sites to keep on buying, Today, all of that has changed basically because now you should only get what you need for a transaction to take place, and the data subject must give consent on that. There are laws guiding how long, a data processor can hold on to someone's data, particularly when it comes to personal identifiable information. There are laws that guide how long. There are laws that guide how you even get the data, basically, how data is transmitted, how data is stored. I think I was reading an ISO document. I think it was 27701 sometime last year when Seamfix was getting accredited for that. And they had details up to the level of, your database structures, the kind of columns that should be there, the kind of data that should be stored, how it should be stored, and so on and so forth. It was that specific, you understand? There are laws around how you can share that data, how you can use that data. There are guidelines and things, within the body of the NDPR, the GDPR, and so on and so forth. Basically. So it's a growing concern, and it's something that is actually getting established day by day. You have more and more applications, being more conscious, about how they manage, how they extract, and how they use and store data, and for how long they store data, because there are steep penalties for flunking any of these things. You understand what I'm saying? So it's a growing concern. It's getting better day by day, and it will continue to improve, to continue to evolve. I don't, as I said, I don't think the world, so I'm not talking of Africa or Nigeria, I don't think the world is completely there yet when it comes to data privacy, but it's a growing concern, and it's constantly evolving. It gets better and better with time, basically. More and more laws get postulated, more and more guidelines come out with respect to this field, and there's much more monitoring on data processors like Seamfix, to ensure that data processors are actually compliant with those guidelines and compliant with those laws and things like that, basically. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
Answer the question. Hope I answered your question. I didn't just go off.
Okay. Thank you very much. So before we take more questions from our attendees, I would like to apologize to everyone for that sick video. Actually, someone joined the webinar and decided to disrupt it by sharing that video, and we quickly had to stop and remove the person, which it's even funny because it was so coincidental. As immediately Dion finished talking about being hacked, that was when that video came in. So my apologies for that. We've removed the person and we can proceed smoothly. So before we even go back to our attendees, Dion, okay, I actually want yourself and Mr. Michael to answer this question, all right? If you were to look through a time hole and see 10 years from now, do you have an idea of how technology would have advanced to further strengthen data privacy and protection? I want Dion to answer that question, and also Mr. Michael from the financial institution scenario. So I think Mr. Michael, you can go first.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it was Mr. Akiwade Fonwa. Incidentally, he just joined last week. He mentioned something interesting. He did say that all the Android-enabled phones have abilities to do the basic KYC. So 10 years from now, nobody will be interested in saying, I want your biometrics. As you are registering your device, it will be a given. 10 years from now, some people would have done it such that your iris, the same way you open your phones with your facial recognition, and the same way you use your fingerprints to open your phone, those would be common. You can't carry a device that nobody will ask you for BVN by then. Nobody will ask you for KYC by then, because so long as that phone can be tied to you, it should be collected back end. 10 years from now, nobody will be interested in where we are now. No. People should be able to walk through events without necessarily going to. I'll give you an example. I don't want to mention the name of the church I attend but it's one of these technologically driven churches, as it were. So last year we had a pastors' conference. Guess how we entered the venue of the program? Facial recognition. I'm not saying one person, you come and put your face like this. No, I'm talking about tens and hundreds of people walking past. You will see the facility was able to recognize faces. It's only those that it couldn't recognize their face that they will just quietly bring you out and you go and process it through maybe fingerprints. But the same way they do it in China today, it's already happening in Nigeria. I'm not saying that we went for the conference abroad. I'm talking about a church that was able to use facial recognition to admit pastors for a conference here in Lagos, Nigeria. Imagine what will happen 10 years from now. So it's as your mind can conceive. These things we are discussing now, we won't be discussing it 10 years from now, I can guarantee you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Michael. Dion, what's your take?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Michael, for relaying that particular example. So in that vein, there are actually schools in China and Japan right now that use that exact same technology for admitting words into school, for even coming to collect your word from school. So the school has biometric cameras in place, basically, that identifies children or words as they're coming into school, knows that, okay, this person is in school today, this person is not in school today. If you're not in school, it automatically triggers an email to your guardian or to your parent to say, your child wasn't in school today, and so on and so forth, basically. Even when it's time to pick up your word, it identifies parents and guardians automatically. If you are not a known parent or guardian, it flags the security system automatically, and so on and so forth. Even when you come to e-commerce, you will in the near future step into stores and have your own virtual assistant guiding you through your shopping experience automatically, leading you to aisles, telling you what you bought 2 weeks ago, and that there's now an upgrade to that system if you might be interested. Just a lot of mind-blowing experiences, things that, just thinking about it just gets you excited. You almost can't wait for the future. But in particular, I would like to mention that the future of KYC is also going to be very much decentralized with time. Basically, this is something that is gradually building. It's a developing thought. Some countries are already experimenting with it. Eventually, I think it will take shape and be adopted as the norm. By decentralized identity, I mean we are talking of an identity that is not owned by the issuing body, is not owned by the processor, but is owned by the subject of the data, which is the owner of the data, basically. So I'll give you a very simple argument to that, or just try to bring it home to you. If you look at your Nigerian passport, you will see clearly written on the passport, it is the property of the Nigerian Immigration Service, basically. But you come to think of it, on that passport are your records. You are a citizen of the country. For that passport, you paid some fee to get that passport. Yet, on the body of the passport, it is written that it is owned by the Nigerian Immigration Service. And there's an argument to that. So why is it owned by the Nigerian Immigration Service? Why isn't it owned by Juliet? Why isn't it owned by Mr. Michael Orba? Why isn't it owned by Mr. Dion? Because it's my record, it's my documents that are on it. If you look at your transcript, it says it's owned by the school you went to. It's your record that is on it. You paid tuition in the school. You graduated from the school, but the transcript is owned by the school. So there's a growing argument on. So yes, the argument is not just to say, okay, all IDs should be owned by the subject. That's not the argument. There's a place for data issuance, basically that's the people who issue identities, like the school, like the immigration service, like FRSC and so on and so forth. There's a place for them. There's a role for them to play. There's a role for data processors like Seamfix. There's a role for government bodies, like the Federal and Territory of Nigeria and so on and so forth. And there's a role for you, the data subject, the actual owner of the data. And what this consortium is trying to implement is a structure in which you are in full control of your data. We are talking of a system where identity is strictly digital, not analog anymore. It sounds strange and a bit far, but it's coming. I mean, countries are already. I'm trying to remember, and there was a country that is already doing this, is already experimenting with this. They were at the ID for Africa conference last year, somewhere in Europe. For the life of me, I can't remember the name of the country, but countries are already experimenting with this structure of identity. And guess what? It first of all tries to answer a lot of concerns around data privacy. It answers a lot of concerns around data usage and how your data is used. Some years ago, we saw the situation with the US election, where Facebook was accused of selling data to some third-party company who in turn had Russian affiliations, and that data was used to influence behavior of Americans, basically, and that influenced how they voted. So data privacy is a big concern. It shows you the length at which it can go. I mean, it's arguable. I don't want to jump into politics and bring up some dirty arguments, but it's arguable that concerns around data privacy is why today we have Trump as president. Because, I mean, the Democrats will argue that Trump being president was largely because of a lot of influence by external factors, external countries, external bodies like the Russians, and so on and so forth. Basically, that's how far-reaching, that's how far-reaching, that's the president of the strongest country in the world, the world power was put in place because concerns around data privacy were not adequately catered for. I mean, if you try to just wrap your mind around that, you see how mind-boggling that is, basically, So digital identity with decentralized monitoring, decentralized mechanism, which will primarily be leveraged on a technology like blockchain. I'm beginning to get too deep into technology. I think I might be venturing off a bit, but that is where identity is going. It might take some time for Africa to get there because naturally we have our own nuances, we have our own constraints. I mean, I've seen some of the questions on the panel about remote areas without internet, areas without infrastructure and things like that, And those kind of nuances will probably delay the shift, will delay the comprehension, even in African minds, of how this is possible. But those problems will be solved someday in Africa. Those problems will definitely get solved. And eventually we will join the global world in this era of digital identity that is decentralized and the subject has full control of the data. It's coming. I can assure you that. It's coming very soon.
All right, thank you very much, Dion. So before you go deep into all of that, let's go back to Mr. Michael. So we all know about the fact that businesses now essentially are being forced into investing in areas that they previously might have avoided, okay, such as maybe advanced analytics and all of that. So Mr. Michael, what do you think, especially with respect to financial institutions, what do you think financial institutions do in terms of investment going forward?
If you don't innovate, you die. It's as simple as that. Take your mind to Kodak. Who carries camera and be looking for? No, everybody have moved on. Every phone is a camera. So that's the essence of innovation. For banks, it's not a matter of investing in something like AI. It will be a new normal. I was joking with my colleagues the other day. If you see my spending pattern, I'm not trying to be modest, but I don't shop for my kids in Nigeria usually. If you see my spending pattern, you see that I shop once in 2 years. Whenever I travel, I go with a suitcase, but when I'm coming back, I come back with like 4 portmanteaus of luggage because I have 4 boys and I dress them well. So I spend quality time to shop for them. But this thing I just explained to you, as simple as it is, no bank has picked it up to say, okay, Mr. Michael, why can't we give you a credit card that you can spend within this period, since you know you can always find a way to pay back and all that? Because no bank is using AI today. I go to a bank to borrow money, they will tell you your cap is 500,000. If my salary is 1 million, why are you capping me at 500,000? It's because there are no records. Nigerian banks are still far away. They say you can access payday loan. How much is that payday loan? They say it's at this level. No, you should be able to know the spending pattern of each person and deal with him as an individual. I'll give you a second example. I'm a photographer by choice. So I usually buy my camera. I change my camera maybe once in 2 years or once in 3 years. I always shop at Amazon. Whether I like it or not, whenever there is a new camera, it pops up, it gives me the features, it will tempt me to buy it because they have this my digital footprint. It's all over the place. You can actually see what I like by going to my Amazon. I buy books, I buy clothing, I buy camera like I mentioned, and my laptop. But no bank in Nigeria has actually harnessed. Imagine a bank like First Bank, Guarantee Trust, Zenith, Access Bank, with the number of data they have, if they can mine using AI, the information they have, they don't need to chase anybody to go and be doing marketing. They can sit back and somebody will just get people to accept what they are already yearning for. They need these things. They want to do these things, but nobody is coming up with that intelligence in marketing. So if you tell me something I like, there are things I think that I will buy it today. Why? Because I've been thinking about it, I've been planning for it, I've been saving for it, but nobody has come to tell me, would you want to? If you buy this thing, you can pay 12 installments and all that. So that's where AI is going. And any bank that refuses to invest in that is going to be in extinction. That's my thinking.
All right, thank you very much. So okay, Gio, you want to say something?
Yeah, if I could just jump on what Mr. Michael said, because I found that great. And that actually ties to what I explained when you had asked about the benefits of eKYC and why organizations should think of eKYC. And I mentioned the two other legs of eKYC, which is customer due diligence and ongoing monitoring. Basically, what he just explained right now is actually those other two legs where you have due customer diligence. To do the customer diligence, you must understand the customer's spending pattern, which is what he just explained. You must have the customer's social history, his financial history, his medical history. A lot of other things come into play to do proper customer due diligence. And if a bank sits on that record, then they can do everything Mr. Mike has explained. If a bank or any financial service provider sits on that wealth of record, you know, governed within the consent of data privacy, before the people in the comments area start dropping their comments.
Yes.
Governed within the framework of data privacy, in any bank that sits on that level of information can tailor suit their services to personas, you know, which is exactly what Mr. Michael just explained. But the problem is, most of the time, particularly in this part of the world, we want to stop at just capture and verification. And until we understand, until our agencies, until our financial institutions and other institutions that provide customer services, until we clearly understand that KYC goes beyond capture and verification, we won't get to that point. I have a friend rather, who traveled to the US. She relocated to the US some years back. And she had it hard for the first year. She didn't have a good job and so on and so forth. But eventually she got a job. She got a very good job. And she wanted to get a car. And so she walked to the car lot and said, okay, I want to get a car. And she provided her identity, her means of identity. They looked her up and they said, why? They instantly identified her. Why? You work in this company. That's a very good company. You came from Nigeria. You do school in this country. How do you even know how to work in this country? Blah, 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 blah. It shows they clearly knew her. But they were not going to give her credit service, which is where you buy the car and spread the payment over time. Because she had very low, the system that they have in place, as said, she has very low credit rating at that point in time. So they know her, they've identified her, they've verified her, but they won't give her the usual service they will give someone else who had a better score rating. So she had to go and get a cashier's check to make full payment to purchase the car. And she came back, made full payment, bought off the car, and drove the car off the lot, basically. Fast forward to today. I spoke to her some days ago. She's thinking today of getting a house on mortgage. Why? Because her credit rating has improved from 3 or 4 years ago. So now, it means they have due diligence in place. It means they have ongoing monitoring. So right now, 4 years ago, she couldn't get a car and spread the payment round. Today, she can get an apartment and spread the payment down 10 years because they have the system in place that does custom. So it's not just about capturing the user's data and verifying when the guy comes and say, you are Juliet. KYC should go way beyond that, if we are really to exploit and harness the benefits that come with knowing your customer, basically. And I think Mr. Michael just gave you the essence. His personal example just shows you the essence of why this is necessary and why our institutions need to wake up and ask for more from companies like Seamfix so that we can do this kind of thing for you. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Michael. Thank you very much, Dino. So going forward, organizations have to invest in artificial intelligence. So it's not just about identifying your customers and verifying them, but also doing due diligence to understand more things, like get more insights about what they do, their spending patterns, and all of that. All right. So from what I think we don't have any other question left, so I'll just conclude. What COVID-19 has really emphasized is the need for digitized services, especially in this age of social distancing. And the funny thing is that there's now a spotlight on organizations that are lagging behind. So if you're not moving with the times or you're not moving with technology, it's obviously going to show in terms of your customer processes and all of that. And now businesses are being essentially forced to invest in areas that they previously have avoided. So what I would say is that for companies, the only companies that are going to be able to stay ahead of the curve are people who are going to leverage on innovation and technology now more than ever. So, and the thing about it is that there's so many restrictions on movement and the fear of contamination surrounding COVID-19. Because of this, people cannot just rely solely on paper documents, and that's even like worsening the whole contamination and all of that. So I'm just trying to tell you guys that it's very, very clear that the future of KYC procedures is going digital. And that's why at Seamfix, what we've basically done is just to enable a lot of organizations to keep up with the changes that is happening around us. So part of this is that we're helping organizations to identify, verify their customers, and also do due diligence in compliance with a lot of regulatory requirements. So I'd like to say thank you very much to our expert panel, Mr. Dion, the engineering manager, research and IT operations at Seamfix, and also Mr. Michael Ogba, who is the former head of agency banking at Access Bank. Thank you very much to our lovely attendees for their time today. I hope you've been able to get some knowledge. I hope you've been able to get more insights. And I would also encourage us to participate and contribute actively to what the changes that we're seeing around us. If we have questions, we can always ask. And like I said earlier on, that Seamfix, we're very friendly. So if you want to know more about our services, our solutions, kindly visit our website. You can follow us on all our social media channels, and we're always ready to hear from you. So if you missed out on some of the questions that have been answered, the webinar has been recorded. So we're going to be posting the full video on our YouTube channels. And we also have your email address. So we're going to send you the recorded version of the webinar today. So over the course of next week, we'll also have to engage. We'll be engaging all our attendees. So if you have any more questions, please kindly look out and just check us out on our website. Thank you very much for joining us today. Again, please remain safe. That's the most important thing. Wear your mask always. Try to distance yourself socially, and basically just be safe and healthy. Thank you very much for today. Thank you for joining us today. It's been nice having you guys. Okay, also, we're going to send the email addresses, the contact addresses of the panelists, so that if you have